Good evening. This is the Raleigh Planning Board. I'm going to call the meeting to order. We have one item on our agenda tonight. That's a Form A or an A&R plan, which for 58 Fenno Drive. A&R stands for approval not required, and basically it's an application filed by a property owner to establish that approval of a lot is not required under the subdivision control law. We spoke about this application at our last meeting, and we found that it was not in dispute that the portion of Fenno Drive on which this particular lot is located is not a public way, and it's not a subdivision road. So therefore, the issue of whether the board can approve this plan is governed by paragraph C of the definition of subdivision in the subdivision control law, which basically refers to a private way that, in the opinion of the planning board, has sufficient width, suitable grades, and adequate construction to provide for the needs of vehicular traffic. So that's basically the issue before the board. I think we all agree on that tonight, is whether this lot has sufficient width, suitable grades, or whether the road serving this lot has sufficient width, suitable grades, and adequate construction to provide for the needs of vehicular traffic. We've received some input from various town officials on this plan. I'll first read a letter from our fire chief, James Broderick, dated August 3rd, 2015, where he states, "I have reviewed the above-mentioned plan and also had a site visit to the area. The following is my opinion of the suitability of Fenno Drive being used by emergency vehicles. Since 1997, when I became the fire chief, the Raleigh Fire Department has not sent a fire apparatus larger than the SUV and pickup truck owned by the department over the bridge on the unimproved section of Fenno Drive. The reason for this is that the bridge was believed at the time to be privately owned, and we are unsure of the weight limit and integrity of the bridge. All emergency vehicles owned by the Raleigh Fire Department access the upper part of Fenno Drive above the bridge off of Kittery Ave. In the current condition of the dirt part of the road, the fire department has adequate width to access both houses that are on the road. The section of the road between the bridge and the last house in the road is wide enough for the passage of two large fire apparatus. At this time, the only need for fire apparatus on this section of roadway would be to fight a brush forest fire, and there will be little effort to turn our forestry and engines around due to the width of the road just past the bridge. If there is ever any additional building of homes in this stretch of road, there will have to be a discussion on the location of the dwelling on the lot, width and length of the driveway, the ability to withstand the weight of fire apparatus in excess of 30 tons, and the construction of adequate turnaround on the property for apparatus in excess of 39 feet. So that's the chief's letter, the fire chief's letter. We also received an email from our police chief, Robert Barker, which I will read. As you may be aware, this section of Fenno Drive has been the subject of much discussion in at least one lawsuit. I'm not sure whether there is still litigation pending over whether there is public access to the road over the bridge or not. That said, the section of roadway over the bridge is adequate for police vehicles to pass safely, although it is only one lane wide. The dirt section of the roadway needs periodic grading to remain passable due to the weather changes of the seasons. I believe that a private party is performing that maintenance now, but any development should carry some provisions for it to be continued. I will leave the issue of vehicle size and weight to the highway superintendent, since that is his area of expertise. If it is determined that there are weight and size restrictions to this bridge, then it must be posted adequately in a spot visible before entering Fenno Drive, and before they make the turn off of Kittery on the other side. This is to ensure that a truck does not get stuck trying to back all the way out, as there is no place for them to turn around. Finally, we have a memo from our town planner, Kirk Baker. A brief memo, I'll read it. At the previous July 23 meeting, the planning board opted to wait for a recommendation from the fire chief and the police chief in regards to emergency access. See the attached memos from both departments which confirm that there is adequate means of access from both ends of Fenno Drive up to the private bridge which crosses the area of wetlands approximately halfway between Central Street and the Kittery Drive access points. Both departments said that that bridge, which is under private maintenance, has not been proven to be safe to use under normal conditions, much less in emergency situations. Nevertheless, both departments confirm they are confident they can access any lot on either side of the bridge in an emergency situation. As we discussed at the last meeting, Fenno Drive pre-exists the adoption of the subdivision control law, and we have now received written confirmation that the lot subject to this A&R proposal is indeed accessible to emergency service vehicles, which is a criteria which I cited under the case law of Gifford versus Nantucket. In that regard, my recommendation is that the planning board has sufficient evidence to support an endorsement of the A&R plan for 58 Fenno Drive. Okay, so that's the input we've received from other town departments and officials. Mr. Beatrice, this is not a public hearing, but if you'd like to make a brief statement on your client's application, we'd be glad to hear it.
Thank you very much. Tom Beatrice for the applicants. I'm not sure if anyone had a chance to go down and actually look at the road, but I would obviously concur with the police chief as well as the fire chief, as well as the town planner with respect to compliance with the statute, with respect to endorsement of the A&R lot application. I would also point out that the portion of Fenno Drive that the chief refers to, although it's a little bit ambiguous, the two houses are actually up in this area. So if you do access Fenno Drive from Kittery Ave and Mansion Drive, I think you may have noticed that the access that he refers to with those two houses in comparison to the condition of the roadway from this curve back to Kittery Ave is not as wide or as in good a shape as to the frontage on the lot that's before you tonight, in terms of being flat, being straight, and being wide.
Well, the road widens out as you get down that slope. Is that past the
That's what I'm talking
past
about.
the house with the fence out front?
That's what I'm talking about, right in this area.
Has anyone else been up
The
there?
road widens out significantly here.
Right.
And from at least my standpoint, I don't think there's any issue as to the adequacy of the roadway. In this area, I don't think there's an issue either, but the road is not in as good condition as it is here, which is in front of the lot that we're actually talking about.
Well, I did go to the site, and I'm not a structural engineer by any means. I'm not qualified to say whether a bridge is structurally sound or not.
I'm an architect, don't look at me.
On the other hand, we don't have any evidence from a structural engineer which supports that the bridge is structurally sound, so we're sort of in a quandary. But to my eyes, the bridge looked very tenuous. I mean, I looked underneath, and it's a one-lane bridge. There were gaps in the rocks that are supporting the bridge. There's some concrete that had fallen, and you can see rebar exposed underneath the bridge. It's certainly, I just wouldn't have any confidence in that bridge whatsoever. But more importantly, the fire chief has no confidence in it either, because he's saying he won't use it, essentially. That's how I interpret his letter. Well, that's the issue. And the other point on the bridge I want to make is that the town at some point put up a sign down at the intersection of Fenno Drive and Central Street saying no trucks. So at some point, it seems to me, the town made a determination that that bridge is not safe for trucks. In fact, there was a guess a number of years ago, there was an incident where a tractor trailer went down there, stopped at the bridge, and said, "I'm not going over this thing." And he tried to back up, and he had a very difficult time just getting out of it from going to Central Street. So, in my opinion, it's as if the bridge doesn't exist, and that the only issue before us is whether the access from Kittery is adequate.
I agree. I think that at this
Agreed.
point in time, that the bridge is actually irrelevant to the application. given
Well, it'd be
the
nice
fact-
it would be nice if there was a usable bridge there, because we wouldn't have to argue
Well,
about this, you know?
I don't want to get too far into the litigation that we're trying to conclude, but I would represent to the board that if you notice the property line here, this is the town land. The proposed property line from Lot 2 would be here. In effect, the town and this property owner own that bridge. The town is at issue in terms of maintenance or use of that bridge as being our owner. And I'm not gonna, I'd be happy to give you my opinion on the bridge, but I'm not a structural engineer or the incident that you're referring to, which I have personal knowledge of. But I think for the purposes of the A&R application again, and I tried to make this point at the last meeting, is that because this access from Kittery Ave, for the purposes of the definition of the statute, that I think an A&R's endorsement is totally appropriate.
Oh, well, okay. So again, I think, you know, I think the issue is access from Kittery, whether
Yeah.
that's adequate.
And I think there are some issues that will come up on any further lots or anything on the road at some point, according to the information that we received from the fire chief.
Well, the fire chief says there has to be a turnaround.
Yeah.
So,
Where we can't condition an A&R, that if there is going to be a turnaround, it's going to have to be something through the building inspector's department when a permit's applied for to build on this lot. They're going to have to figure out where it's going to be sited and whether a turnout needs to be built on it. But I guess we have to leave it to that because it seems like,
well, do we? That's the issue, I think.
I don't see how we can, if we deny the A&R, I don't think we have the basis to deny it, because where the fire chief supports, or at least says that he's got adequate access, what would be the basis?
But
He was saying.
he doesn't really say that there's
He
adequate
was
access.
asking for in the future for other houses.
If there is ever any additional building homes, which is what we're talking about when we approve a Form A.
Okay, yeah.
There will have to be a discussion on the location of the dwelling on the lot, the width and length of the driveway. He's talking about the driveway here, the ability to withstand the weight of fire apparatus. You know, again, those are issues outside our purview. And the construction of an adequate turnaround on the property for apparatus in excess of 39 feet. So, I don't know, the way I look at it, and
It could be a hammerhead.
the way I look at it, and I don't think there's any precedent on this at all, it's a very interesting question, but when a planning board is looking at a plan, and in order to say that road provides adequate access, there needs to be a turnaround. Do we not have the right to say we want to see the turnaround shown on the plan?
Can I throw my 2 cents in?
Sure.
This is not an uncommon issue with respect to development of land in terms of proposed turnarounds, once there's a building proposed on it, or issues as to where the building might be sited on the lot. One of the issues that the fire chief mentioned was where the building may be developed and the width and the length and the construction of the driveway, which is an issue that would be at issue with any large lot that has adequate frontage in town that's in a rural area. It's not uncommon. But at this point in time, and I disagree respectfully that the chief didn't address it. I think he addressed it, the fire chief, very specifically, that in terms of the adequacy of access, he says that 2 large fire apparatuses have adequate space to travel on that road. If I could quote, the section of the road between the bridge and the last house on the road is wide enough for the passage of 2 large fire apparatus. As far as the statute is concerned, it does speak to the adequacy of the roadway in terms of vehicular access, which I don't even think is an issue, but in terms of safety, if the fire department can get their engines down there, and the fire chief says it's adequate, but if he's concerned down the road that he may need a turnaround, I think that's an issue that should be discussed down the road, but not at this stage of the proceedings. The statute's the statute. It's clear, it's unambiguous, and I don't think there's any issue from what the police chief or the fire chief said, that they have adequate access to this lot. And I think that's where the discussion should end, respectfully. I don't think we should be going any further than
Well, I mean, again, adequate access requires that there be a turnaround, because otherwise the fire apparatus is going to have to back up that road, which is, and the road's not great either, you know? I mean, it's wide when you get past those 2 houses, but when you start going up that hill, it's narrow, it's a gravel road, there's a, you know, it's not a, there's a grade there, it's not,
A little bit new with the
Yeah.
planning board thing, but remember it. So he doesn't have to come to plan, if you wanted to, say if you approved it tonight, and you wanted to build houses, would he have to come before us, the
No.
conditions, or he could just
he's
skate by?
done with them.
So the building inspector.
Now,
You'd have to
Just
comply
one
with the,
Yeah.
not to interrupt, you'd have to comply with the building code and the health code.
Would that include the fire
And
department?
the
or no?
fire department would have to sign off on it.
So the building
Fire-
inspector couldn't issue a permit without the fire department?
In my experience, what would happen if they were gonna build a house, wanted to build a house in this lot, I'm not sure that'll ever happen, but if it does, there'd be a plan filed and, with a building permit application, and the fire chief has to sign off on it. And if he feels that they're building a house at the far end of this lot, and the driveway is too small to get a fire engine up there, he's not gonna sign off on it. He's gonna say widen that road or move the house closer.
well, he's gonna want a turnaround,
Or if he
that's for
says,
sure.
or if he says we need a turnaround,
He-
then that comes up on the plan, but not at the A&R.
He's definitely saying he needs a turnaround, the way I interpret this letter. But I know, there's an issue, whether,
But what that turnaround is.
I mean, do you think that you're involved in projects?
No, normally, that's correct. It goes to the building department, he says, you gotta talk to the fire department,
Fire-
not only about.
Fire
this-
chief has to sign off on it.
Has to sign off on this, in this case, the site plan, but also the number of smoke detectors and CO detectors, everything.
The other point.
Doing a turnaround, so. Fire
And in
chief's
this
gonna-
case, since this paragraph exists, it'll be the turnaround.
Fire chief's gonna say, I want a turnaround, then
Yeah,
I'll have to make a
But
provision.
that's not tonight.
The point is that we can't even address the issue of turnaround because we don't know where the house is gonna be, if there is one. And it has to be, it all has to fit, the driveway, the turnaround.
The septic.
And it's totally, it's totally speculative.
I think it's covered, I think it's sufficiently covered as far as the building inspector knows from this paragraph.
And yet the building inspector won't know about it, because all the building inspector will necessarily know is that there's an A&R for a lot, because we can't condition.
Yeah, but if it's a standard procedure for him to request the fire chief to sign off on the.
Right.
on the building,
It
which
is
I
a
think
stand- it
which
is
I
a-
believe it is.
It is a standard procedure, yeah.
And as much as I agree that's the case also, I don't necessarily know that there's a building jacket for this lot from this point forward, so the fire department's gonna have to come up with the same opinion at that point.
Yeah.
But if 5 years from now they file for a
Okay,
building
I
permit,
just
that's what
wanted-
I imagine at that point, he's gonna have to determine whether he wants to turn it out or consistent with this, or otherwise wants to come up with new conditions or forego these conditions. But I mean, the only problem I have with any of this is that there's no way, we can either accept it or reject it. We can't condition it, we
Right.
can't accept it with conditions.
Right.
But I don't think we have a statutory basis to reject it as much as we have real concerns. The fire chief and the police chief are telling us that, you know, subject to
They
some
can do-
conditions, they can get in there.
They can do their job.
There's substantial case law that supports that position.
Okay. Just wanted to highlight it as an
You
issue.
want a motion?
Sure.
I make a motion, we accept the A&R plans.
Okay.
I second the motion.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? You guys have it.
We have two plans in front of us today, though. One's for 58, one's 51. You only here on 58, or we doing, did we do the other one last week?
You approved
You approved it.
51 last week.
Just an endorsement? Did we endorse it last week?
I don't think that you did.
Okay.
And Kirk asked me to bring 2 copies of endorsement, one for the board and one for myself as well.
You need it, and you need it on this one, I guess you want one on the Mylar there too, right?
Correct.
Ready to go?
So there'd be 3, including Mylar.
I wasn't here last week, so.
Not yet. Well, yeah, well, you don't have to endorse it here.
Judge, there should be a judge.
Yeah. Probably not.
Avoid signing.
Yeah, you don't need to.
Is this your first signing?
It is.
Yep.
Now part of the official record.
Yeah.
That's it.
Get another pen on it.
How many signatures do we have?
What, Mark put his date into it. I put the date in, to Mark
Oh,
put it in
okay.
the second time.
There's only 3 people, there's 4 signatures.
Well, they gave us a signature. Next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have Chris sign any of these?
I guess we should sign that.
Kirk asked to sign the copies as well.
May 8th, May 12th? Which one is it?
8-6.
How to use that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think actually the ones he wants to endorse are the rolled up, plans, not these folded plans.
I already received.
15 is on top. So. Almost like you
I really have it quite long.
One second. This is the one I'm trying to sign. This one I can't sign.
And one last set. Thank you.
This guy's registered in New Hampshire.
What's that?
They're registered in New Hampshire.
Oh. Congratulations.
You have to take a sip for any,
I did do all kinds of crap. Well, you get a letter from him.
TV still on.
You say nice
Yes,
things.
I said very nice things.
Did have trouble
So
with,
that's why you get.
I'm sure it is, because the building inspector in Bedford after me. And I found out he sits on the board, and that's why he was after me.
Really?
Yeah. For sure.
Oh, in Bedford, not our.
In Bedford,
The
not.
board members are never jerks.
Wow.
Cameron's rolling.
Huh?
Cameron's rolling.
But he actually turned out to be a good guy.
Oh, that's good. I just wanted to get your cert, so you didn't have to.
Well, the weird thing was Massachusetts.
Okay.
Before the war.
That's your copy.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Tom. It's
Tom,
nice
thanks
seeing
for
you
coming
again.
back in.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
Second. Third.
In favor.
All those in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it.
And I voted